Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have Michelle. Michelle has a bomb drop of February 2022 this year and a date of marriage of 2014. She has a clinging boomerang and she's not yet familiar with the energy level terms. She says, "We had a great marriage with no obvious problems or unhappiness. Then my husband was unhappy at work and he had a bad car accident in January of 2022. He wasn't injured, but he was emotionally shaken. On April 2nd, he came downstairs crying, saying he had to leave and he didn't know why, but he had to run away. He left the next day. I reacted badly, screaming and begging for a week. He eventually came home on my birthday a week later. We didn't really talk about what happened, but he stayed home for 6 weeks and carried on with life. 2 days after a week-long holiday, he left again, and he hasn't returned this time. I found out he'd been having an affair since before he left, and he told me he loved me, but he wasn't in love with me. He texts me daily. I speak to him every week, and I see him on average once a fortnight for dinner. He says he's not in a relationship with her anymore. He has never monstered and is having counseling. Am I right to stand for my marriage? I think he's scared. I'm not sure if this is a midlife crisis." Well, Michelle, let's look at a few things. First, I was not really sure if you said that he was having an affair before he left. Was that the first time he left or the second? But it's just not a big deal, but I just wasn't very clear on that one. The other thing I want you to say is he showed some very clear signs in the text things he said. I don't mean it by text. I mean they're just standard things that are on the midlife crisis script. And that would be, he left the next day, he reacted, he came downstairs saying he had to leave, he didn't know why, and then he had to run away. And that was part of the words you said he used. He had to run away. He didn't know why. That's very odd, isn't it? And very sudden, even though he'd had this crisis of an accident and he was unhappy at work. But we're not used to our spouses just saying, I have to leave and I have to run away. So that right there shows the MLC inner feelings. Now, they don't always verbalize that out loud. It's still script, but sometimes they might say it inside themselves. I've got to go, I got to go, I got to go. But they won't say it out loud to you. He said it out loud to you. So that is part of MLC right there. That doesn't mean that he's going to hit all of the bullet points. Now, the next thing, you found out there was an affair. He stayed home for 6 weeks, that he left for her, that sort of thing. Here's what I would have said in the very beginning. You had a spouse who came home. He'd had a traumatic event, so he had a trigger for midlife crisis. Then he had a bomb drop. It was very soon after. I mean, we say 12 to 36 months, and it was even closer than that, which it can be. And he left very suddenly. I mean, the very next day he was gone. Now, you reacted, yes, badly, but normally also. Remember, normal's not healthy. So you were within normal realms of what people are going to do. Then he came home. Now, you didn't talk about what you felt then. Did you feel relieved? Did you think, oh yeah, we're going to be fine now? Were you walking on eggshells that entire time? Were you thinking he's going to leave again? Were you thinking he's probably not, but we need to work on it. We haven't done anything. We haven't done a counseling, that sort of thing. He was going to go again. If he's a midlifer, he was going to leave again. Somebody who is an MLC, and he's already shown that he's a runner because he ran immediately. He wasn't going to come home and stay. MLCers leave. That's axiomatic. They leave. Sure, we have some that don't, but the majority of them, and it's not like a 51% majority, most of them leave eventually. Even those who have had an at-home MLCer for a year, their spouse is probably going to leave eventually also. So he was destined to leave. He came home too soon. He came home out of his shame, out of his guilt. And he was feeling a lot of that shame and guilt. And he used that classic line, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. So one of the things you said was that you have a clinging boomerang. Yes. Very good. You do have a clinging boomerang. He is probably going to be more high energy, but we'll see. In the beginning, it's people who are low energy appear to be high energy often because they try to be, and then they fail at it. Yours had so much guilt and shame that he was brought down by that very quickly. And he came home. I wasn't sure if, excuse me, if it was a week after he left or 2 weeks, because you reacted badly for a week. And then after that week, what was your birthday? Was your birthday exactly 1 week later? But he was only gone for a week or two. Came home. He is overwhelmed by guilt and shame. And that right there, guilt and shame and this sense of burden and duty. So he came home, and then it was your birthday. That just piled onto it. Obviously, it's not your fault. It's your birthday. But he piled onto it. I need to be there I left her this close to her birthday. I'm such a horrible person. I'm even a more horrible person than if I'd left her on just some random day, not close to a holiday. So understand that he feels that. He's very sensitive to it. More than some others, less than others probably, but he seems to have a lot of it because he came home so quickly, and he wasn't going to be ready. So had you come to me and said, this is a midlife crisis, if I knew it was a midlife crisis, and he came home and it's only been a week, I'd say he's leaving again. And he's not going to be very long till he leaves again, probably. 6 weeks, yeah. That fits. So right there, I can't tell you if it's MLC. He's never monstered, and he's having counseling. I love that he's having counseling. I also worry that he's having counseling. First question is, are you counseling together for marriage counseling? You're not describing it as that, so my assumption that is counseling for him. Next, how is he responding to that? And what I mean is, if you know, because he tells you, how is he responding? Otherwise, how does he seem when he comes through from the counseling? And does he seem to be complaining about it? Or, my counselor says I should do this. My counselor says I should find my happiness. And using it as a justification for negative behavior, I would also think that is more high energy type. Or does he appear to be thinking things through? It doesn't mean that it's not a midlife crisis if he does appear to be doing that. It could just be more of the lower energy coming through. And he's going to kind of sit in himself in a permanent withdrawal. Yeah, he is scared. MLC is scary. It is very scary when you don't know who you are. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what my purpose in life is. Midlife crisis is existential. This is about the person I thought I was, and suddenly life isn't working at that, and that person I thought I was, it's not making me happy. None of that is. And you have to choose your happiness. And you get to choose that life that you go on. And then you feel burdened by the life you've chosen. And how do you move forward into a new life? And then you have this spouse and this family. And, oh my God, but they don't want this new life. I haven't ever talked to them about it. And then I feel so guilty and ashamed that I've put them through, even though they hadn't put anything through you through anything yet. They start to go into analysis paralysis with all of these fears about the new life that they're somehow imagining. And then they have another person involved, and that other person feeds the fantasy. That other person validates the fantasy and creates the fantasy. And if they're limerent with that person, there's the addiction that comes, or the addictive like feelings that come from the chemicals that are being released with the limerence. The feeling that the world is brighter. Taste buds are more vibrant. They are narrowly focused on that person, and everything else is outside of their tunnel vision. They really don't notice other things in the same way. Probably having a midlife crisis, but what I want you to do, if you haven't already, is go to the checklist. So I will try to remember to put the link at the bottom of the description on this recording. And the link is not to a direct checklist. It's just to my main site, and there should be a small banner at the top that will pop up when you come in saying that you can take the MLC quiz and find out if your spouse is in MLC, and it goes through a checklist. And you read through those and just check them off and see where he rates in that. And that might help you with some answers. And if it doesn't, let me know. Okay. Well, I also see a lot of people try to take the checklist and then they say, oh, yeah, hit all of them. But I still doubt it. And if that's the case, then you have to look into yourself of why you're doubting. Are you concerned that you're using MLC as an excuse when they really do hit it? And that could be. MLC is terrible and it's scary and it's a journey and it happens and we have to accept what's going on because we can't stop it. And if we do somehow succeed in the can't and stop it and pull them out, they're going to have another one later and it's going to be worse. So it's good to learn about MLC if this is what it is. And the things you've described are looking to me like MLC. That's all I can really say. Now, are you right to stand for your marriage? I don't know. Are you? I always say, yeah, go for it. But I'm biased. I want all of the marriages to succeed and thrive. And I wish that none of you would fail. I wish every single marriage. So I am so biased. I don't want any of these marriages to go to divorce. And there are certain ones that I know should. I just wish they didn't have the parameters that made it that way. The ones that I think that I don't want to cheer you on are when there's physical abuse. And that means a history and pattern of physical abuse. And that could be emotional abuse too. Anything that makes it a toxic relationship or a high conflict relationship. High conflict relationships are dangerous for families, for the children as well. So when I talk about abuse, let's just instead pair that as a high conflict relationship. If the household is high conflict toxic. If there is serial adultery, not midlife crisis adultery. Now, in midlife crisis, if it lasts 7 years, there might be adultery for 7 years. But I mean, they have a pattern of almost like sexual addiction. And they could be sexual addicts. I don't know a lot about that. But they feel an entitlement to just cheat. That's their life and what they do. And they will always do that. It would take a lot. And probably higher narcissism in that. I'm just guessing. And addiction, untreated addiction. If they're not going to get treatment, what are you going to do? You can wait it out, and it is going to tear you down. And the other one is personality disorders. I am very wary of those with true personality disorders, of if you're married to a borderline, if you're married to someone with narcissism or antisocial personality disorder, dangerous on those, some of those at least. And so I think that's something where you have to do what you're going to do and make your choices. Are you right to stand for your marriage? Do you love your husband? Not the person that cheated on you. And you might love that person too. It sounds to me like right now he's very low, but he may end up being high because it hasn't been going on for that long. But do you love the core person that you married? Do you believe in your marriage? The marriage you had before this. You said you had a great marriage and no obvious problems. So when I come to that, I say, why wouldn't you consider it? Why would you doubt it? Unless you're looking at probability. Are you looking at risk? Oh, I'm taking a risk that since the probability of reconciliation is low for the general MLC population, I just shouldn't put in the effort. You know, I don't buy lottery tickets, but a lot of people do, and the chances are 1 in 7 million. And if you're doing it because your plan is to win the lottery, that was my dad's plan, then it's foolish, right? Now, if you're doing it because you know that the lottery puts money into good programs, then your motive is different. But if you're doing it because I need that money and I'm banking on it, it's absurd. Stand right now because it's a grace period until you feel like you can make a decision to stand. Get yourself healed. And when you feel more detached and more solid in the situation, then reevaluate it and determine what it is you want for your future. And if you're still not sure, you can go continue standing. You can say, well, I'm standing, but I'm not standing. In other words, I'll be okay either way, but if he does change his mind, I'm here. Midlife crisis is long enough that you may end up going to the other fish in the sea route, which is, you know, I haven't shut the door, but I'm not holding it open. I'm not standing. I'm not waiting. I'm not staying away from dating others. Right now, You're still fresh. You're still in the healing stage. It wouldn't be fair for you to date others anyway. But standing is a great thing to do in the beginning just to get yourself healed, okay? So for right now, I say you're right to stand because you're standing for your healing. Once you feel you're at a level of healing that is enough, a level of detachment that is enough, where you are more emotionally stable and you can evaluate your situation, then reevaluate whether you feel standing is the right choice for you. Okay? I hope this was helpful, Michelle. And I will see everybody in the next question.